Hey guys, it's Halsey Scheider with the HeliCASTS podcast, and this is another European Rotors special 2024 here in beautiful Amsterdam. And I am so excited to be joined by Beth from HeliPackers. In fact, we met last year in Madrid.
We did.
I remember that. You and your husband, I believe.
Yep.
I met you both. We had actually talked about doing the podcasts then.
Yeah.
And here we are now. So I'm glad that we finally got around to it.
Yeah.
How are you finding the show so far?
So good. Our whole crew loves Amsterdam. It's such a great city to be in. We've cracked the weather. It's been amazing.
The weather, has it cleared up at all today? Because it looks like it's
still a little foggy today.
I was looking at the forecast last week, and it was supposed to cloudy and rain.
Yeah.
And by and large, it's been sunny.
Yeah.
And absolutely gorgeous. So
yeah, it's so good.
It's been a good show. It's a
the
great
show is awesome.
Turnout.
Yeah.
A lot of energy, and yeah, Amsterdam is a super cool place to be.
It is.
For sure. Very excited. Yeah, very excited to have this conversation with you today. I get to talk to a lot of people that are kind of outside the specific sector that I serve, which is on the broker side, right? My full-time gig, buying and selling helicopters, helping people do that.
Yeah.
And I know that you guys at HeliPackers are not only well known for pre-buys, which we're going to really dive in deep today.
Yeah.
But you're also, of course, into the logistics and the shipping side, which is also something I'm very familiar with as well.
Yes.
So I feel like this is going to be a cool conversation because I personally feel like pre-buys specifically can be complicated.
Yes.
Specifically with no standardization and things like that. Shipping and logistics can be complicated, so I'm really excited to hear about what you guys offer and what you guys provide when it comes to the shipping logistics side. And I'm just kind of excited to see where the conversation goes. Maybe talk about buying an aircraft, say, from Europe and bringing it into the United States. What does that look like?
Yes.
Do we have to look at different things with STCs and
we do.
Do we need field approvals and all those fun things to kind of navigate that process? So I think that you and I will have some good synergy on this. But just to cue up the audience, would you mind just giving me a little bit more information about yourself, your background, your company, and we'll go from there?
Sure. So my name is Beth, and I am a aircraft maintenance engineer licensed with Transport Canada. I'm originally from New Zealand.
And that's not a Canadian accent that you have?
It's not a Canadian accent, although my sister is visiting from New Zealand. She's here at the booth as well, and she says that I talk a lot different.
Really?
Around Canadians or compared to around family. So
I guess you might have to subconsciously
Yeah. I don't know. I must pronounce things differently, but she's definitely made me aware that I roll my R's a little more when I'm not talking to family. So I have lived in BC, Canada for around 15 years now.
Beautiful place.
With my husband, Mike, and beautiful place. We love it. And that's where we're based in Vernon in BC with our maintenance facility and also an operating company, Finnair Helicopters. We operate out of Vernon as well. But what the booth we have here at the show is for HeliPackers and leading edge aerospace, as you mentioned. And so that product we developed that really just out of what we felt was a need, a gap that seemed to be missing in our industry. We were asked, leading edge aerospace, we're in our 9th year this year, and we've been
awesome.
We've always specialized in mobile maintenance. And again, just from looking around and seeing what was needed, what there might be a bit lacking, we have some really good MROs in the Okanagan Valley. We've got some really, really good people around us that we work with. And so we felt another investing a whole lot into a bricks and mortar facility was unnecessary because we've got some great neighbours that have already done that. And
Sure.
So what we felt was a good product to offer the industry was mobile maintenance. And so that's really what we've always become known for. And I guess because we're known for have toolbox will travel mentality, we started getting asked to be the crew to do the disassembly
Sure.
for helicopters that were getting bought and sold between different countries. And so it was being involved with that. Our crew love, because all of our crew love traveling. That's why we're all working at a mobile facility. And then being able to travel internationally is also a fun part of the HeliPackers side of things. So what we found with that experience of coming in, being the crew to do the disassembly, is that there just wasn't really a lot of overview with the whole process. And so when a helicopter is sold, there's the buyer and the seller, and then you're doing your thing to making it all come together, all the complex. It's very complex. Helicopters are very complex machines. The buying and selling of them, even in the same country, as you know very well, is also actually still really complex. And so that layer of complexity is just really, really increased when you're buying and selling in through different countries. And so that's what we
Tenfold.
really found, was that the complexities is there's so many little details that they're all just, one of them by themselves is just a little detail. But when you have so many of them, and if one of them gets dropped, then it's a chain reaction. Then that helicopter is just sitting. It's sitting on the port, or it's sitting.
It's a pumpkin.
Yes, exactly. And so we found that from our experience of being asked to be the disassembly crew and then knowing the buyer and working with them, there just wasn't really an overview product, I guess, for the people that are actually to get that helicopter. It's almost in no man's land in that time between when it's sold and when it's bought. And then, of course, there's insurance, logistics, and that whole period as well. So it really is in this little haze of no man's land.
100%.
And now with HeliPackers, that's that little area. That's what we really zeroed in on and identified, that when we're in as maintenance engineers, we're in the business of looking after helicopters, and so we felt that advocating for the helicopter when it's in that little no man's land area is really what we're all about, of just babysitting the helicopter as it's making its way from the seller to the buyer, and we're in there, and so we will look after all the little bits and pieces. We've partnered with some very good shipping logistics companies. We're not shippers, and so we don't want to. We knew, we were very clear about what it is that we were doing. So we're the maintenance engineers, and we look after the helicopter. So we vetted a few shipping companies, and that's who we work with now to do. So it's a really good partnership to actually do all of the logistics that we work in with. But we still have the overview, even though they have all their people as well on the shipping side. We still maintain all the overview all the way through. So it's fun. It's really cool to go to different countries with it. It's cool to be a part of that whole complexity to bring the helicopter to its new owner. And so it's neat to be at the show this week now. It's the first time we've ever held a booth for this product.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
How's it going so far?
Really good.
You guys getting good
Super,
turnout?
Yes. Because it's because we felt we developed this because we felt that it was lacking, and so we were like, well, we think it's lacking, but I don't know, maybe it's not.
What will the industry say?
Exactly. What does the industry say? So we thought, well, a good way to do that is just take it,
100%,
market, put a booth, and just have the conversations and say, like, we think it's missing. Do you guys think it's missing? And it's been really cool. The conversations have been very, very interesting, of all the different sectors that are going like, oh yeah, this is really good to know you guys are doing this.
Yeah, it's a really lacking representation. I mean, the helicopter industry, specifically on the sales side, is actually extremely behind. The reason I started my company was I just figured I could do better than what was currently being offered, right? Yeah. Specifically on the standardization side. I'm a pilot, right? So for me, checklists are really important. Yep. And I felt like when I started to investigate and learn the market a little bit, it was like, there was not a systematic approach, right? If you buy a house, the real estate agent's going to follow a process on the sell side, on the buy side. So whether I buy a house in Oregon, where I live now, or I'm buying a house in Texas, it's mostly going to feel the same, right? It's a very standard process. Helicopter sales to me is like a Wild West. There's no regulatory really body for buying and selling helicopters. There's no licensing required or anything like that. So essentially it's the Wild West. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of money to be made, right? So people will do things to make, maximize their profits. So there's a lot of people that are doing things that aren't super ethical. And so it's just it's a complicated business.
Yeah.
Not to mention then the helicopter. The helicopter's very complicated. In fact, so I just got into selling airplanes, and
Oh, wow.
I love helicopters, and I'm excited to continue to sell helicopters, but airplanes are easier. There's
Right.
less going on.
Well, there's a lot less spinny things.
Exactly. So just the machine, just the complexity of the machine is so difficult. And something that I know that you guys do is this idea of providing a pre-purchase inspection.
Yeah.
And to me, a pre-purchase inspection can mean a lot of things depending on who you talk to. So I'm really curious to hear what a pre-purchase inspection means to you guys at HeliPackers.
Well, that's a really cool question, and I agree with you. I think it is a very interesting sentence to be in the market providing, because I've found the same thing. It means very different things to different people. And in our shop, our crew, we always joke we're all a bunch of engineers, and so we all joke that we're just talking engineer talk, and we're under the hood all the time. We are maintaining that helicopter, so it comes in and we take all the cowlings off, and we're down in the weeds, and we're looking at all the detailed fine things, and so we're always going to look at things in that mindset. We're engineer brains, and
Sure.
so we're always going to look at it from the math end, and we're always going to approach things from the maintenance forecasting side, and so we approach things as the engineers, and so it has been really interesting to have these conversations about pre-purchase inspections, because they do mean different things to different people. And also purchase like a helicopter, even for operators who purchase helicopters a lot, buying, selling a lot, depending on what their fleet requirements are. A helicopter is a beautiful machine. It's the most incredible machine ever designed, in my opinion.
I agree.
And so
We're biased, but it's probably
we're very
true.
biased. But it's hard. Like, if you can name one machine that's more interesting and complex and beautiful all at once, and so
impactful to our economy.
Very impactful.
A helicopter. I was talking with David Smith from Robinson today, he's the CEO, and we talked about that idea of like, man, the helicopter does so much. You know, the world economy
so dynamic
is done on the back of the helicopter. Now, a lot of people don't like helicopters.
Well, they think they don't like them. That's the other side of it. Again, perception, like what we're talking about.
And that's why, hopefully organizations like VAI and other organizations can help educate public. But sorry to derail you.
We started talking about helicopters. It's all good.
We can't help it.
Verticon. Experience the ultimate thrill at Verticon, the show that features more helicopters than any. Cutting-edge technology, hundreds of companies, and international industry leaders come to the world's largest vertical aviation show. Register today at verticon.org.
So it is an interesting thing to see, like what the question that you say, what does it mean to you? Because we find the pre-purchase inspection from an engineer's perspective, you have to understand that the engineers, the maintenance department of any operator in any shop, the maintenance department are the ones that will, what we say, be at the sharp end of the knife for onboarding, for finding out what issues that helicopter was bought with. Sometimes the communication between ops and maintenance is not as free-flowing as it maybe could be, and so sometimes the DOM may find out after the sale's already happened that their boss just bought another helicopter. And so we always joke that in maintenance, like, shit flows downhill, we're at the bottom of the hill. It's just always we are responsible for making it all happen, for going like, okay, roll the sleeves up. And we're also problem solvers by nature. We like to fix things, we like to find out what's wrong, we like to make it better. So I think it's a person that's attracted into aircraft maintenance has all these natural predispositions, and so I think we're all suckers for like rolling the sleeves up and going, all right, let's get in here and see what we got. And so from an engineer's perspective, a pre-purchase inspection is a no-brainer. It's a bare minimum. We can't even fathom or comprehend how a person would go ahead and just buy a helicopter sight unseen, or
It happens.
it happens so
It happens a lot.
so much more than anyone would think, and it always blows me away every time because I'm like, all right, like it's like it, even if it's not.
You see the aftermath of it too.
Yeah,
I mean, at least in my business, look, we'll get approached to sell an aircraft. And we'll do some due diligence, look at the records, not do like a full comprehensive, say, pre-buy audit or anything like that. But hey, does this meet our standard? You know, am I going to list this, and is it going to make us look good, or is it going to make it look like we're selling turds, right?
Yeah.
And you know, I'll look at some logbooks sometimes, and be like, did you know about this?
Yeah.
did you look at this? Well, no, I just paid the guy in cash, and then you do the back end work, not even just the pre-buy or the physical or the records, but then you're looking at the title, and you're like, hey, do you know that your helicopter has a lien on it of $300,000 for 20 years ago?
Yeah.
You know, and you still don't want to use an escrow?
Yeah.
Like,
and you'd probably find being a broker, because you're in the relationship building business too. You are bringing parties together
always
to make something happen. And so it's similar in the maintenance department, where we're in the operations business. We support operations. That helicopter will go to work because of what we've done to look after it and maintain it and make it compliant and onboard it and do all the things that need to be done so that it's safe and compliant with the regulations of the land. And so similar to what you, for repeat business, I'm sure what you want is that the buyer and seller walk away happy. They've got the helicopter sold and bought, and that buyer's got the helicopter they need for their fleet at this point in time, and they know what they bought. They might have all kinds of maintenance coming down the line, but they know it's coming. And
sure.
I just did a presentation this morning on that the same topic of it doesn't really matter. Like we did a collaboration with Finnair Helicopters for the presentation, and so this is the pre-buy we did, and then Mike was talking on the Finnair side about the 135 that Finnair bought. It didn't matter that it was coming due for its 5,000-hour events. It was all reported. It was checked.
Yeah.
They knew exactly what was coming. They knew what to budget. They bought that helicopter knowing that there weren't going to be any operational downtimes. The maintenance was all planned and all financed. The operational planning and the financial planning was all done. And so there was zero downtime because it was all known. And so what a pre-buy means to me as an aircraft engineer that provides that one of our specialist services that we go all over the world providing, is what it means to me is supporting relationships between buyers and sellers in the helicopter industry.
How do you do that?
And providing certainty. That's what we say is we introduce certainty into the situation. It doesn't really matter what state the helicopter's actually in. That's not an engineer's job to beat up what position it's in. It's just our job to actually inspect and identify and report on what that position is.
So present the facts.
So that present the facts so that the buyer knows exactly, like, it's got corrosion here, or it's got a major maintenance event coming up here, or it had a hard landing, or it's in perfect condition, or it's got a 2 years of logbooks missing, but the technical records actually have got it's able to be matched up because it's okay. The journey log's not complete, but the technical records are, so that means that yes, it still can be imported. So all of the checklisted things that we do. So what we ended up doing was similar to what you said, that you started your business because you felt that we can do better. You know, the industry deserves better, deserves 100%. More. These machines deserve better. The machines deserve more. They're the most beautiful equipment and complex inspections.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's what we felt. So then we got to work and we just started checklisting and templating everything from the inspection prompts. So the engineer who's assigned to it will go through and will be prompted from, no matter how experienced you are, you've still got your prompts of precisely what it is.
Follow a procedure?
Yes.
Go figure.
We have templated folders.
How innovative.
Isn't it amazing? Just reinvent the wheel. No,
I can't believe it.
No. And so we basically just have you click a button now, and then the new populated template folder will be all the templated folders of where to put the photos into, so that as the engineer's going through, you'll take photographs from that whatever ATA section you work front to back or back to front, whatever your style is, but it'll all be templated. By the time you're done, the photographs of the things that need to be photographed will end up in that folder in a logical sequence, so that you as the potential buyer, if you want to have a good close look at the rotor head or whatever it is, it's all labeled, and then the sub-assemblies.
Yeah, it's easy to
all the things.
Easy to follow.
Yeah, and so we started templating all of that, and then it all just flows through into a final PDF report now that then has 1 million hyperlinks through it. So again, expanding on, you got your summary, and then it'll expand out so that you got videos and photos of the EDR download of the engine, or the latest results of the oil analysis, or the folder of there might be a lot of erosion on the blade, so there's some video and photos so that the buyer and seller can have a bit of a discussion about, was this already identified in the initial offering? Is this a new thing to learn about?
Something new, yeah.
Yeah. So for me, it is the pre-purchase inspection means for me is introducing certainty into the equation, so that sale, there's no reason why that sale shouldn't go ahead. If it matches, the buyer and seller have already come together. They already know that it's likely going to be what they wanted. They wouldn't have brought us in to spend the money to do a pre-buy, because they're not cheap. It's an investment. And so they wouldn't have already done that if they weren't pretty sure that that's going ahead. So we feel our job is just to come in and actually introduce certainty that, yes, this aircraft can be imported into the country that you're coming into, or it can be onboarded into your facility, or if not, if we can't find that, then we introduce certainty that it can't. It will either be yes or no based on very clear facts.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds very systematic, which I like.
It is.
And it's funny because everything else in the industry that we're kind of mutually in is unsystematic. There's no clear procedure.
Kind of shocking, isn't it?
So we should work together. I think
Yes.
this would be fun to try that, because pre-buys have been difficult for me. Because I've experienced every little bit of, pretty good to horrible, but not great. Almost great. I have a provider that I love, and he's great, very thorough, very systematic, provides a lot of good information. But sometimes I find that even, and maybe this is something that you guys also bring to the table, is sometimes engineers aren't always the best at explaining things in kind of layman's terms.
You're so right there. And that's what we joke about in the shop, about that we speak engineer speak, and we're so deep down in the weeds. And sometimes we just dump way too much information on these poor bastards that are just like, hey, I just want a summary. Like, can you just give me a summary? Well, so we're constantly working on that.
And it can be difficult because sometimes it can sound really bad.
Yeah.
And it can look bad if it's not portrayed in the right way, right? And so I'll ask an engineer, I'll say, well, I see like this doesn't sound or look good, but can you explain it to me? And then he explains it, and I'm like, oh, well, that just seems to be normal wear and tear then. Is that correct? Oh, yeah, it's just normal wear and tear. I'm like, well, why did you make it sound like the...
Because of our personality types. You have to understand, our job is to identify problems before they become problems. So we are constantly looking for things that are wrong. That is how our brains are trained. And you're inspecting, you're not just whistling along going, yep, good. You are literally looking for things that are wrong. And so when your brain's wired that way and your career has given you the technical training to operate in that way, then we're not necessarily the sunniest and rosiest of people. It's just the way it is.
You come on.
Well, this is corporate. This is corporate Beth
I was
right
gonna
now.
say, you look, pretty put together.
Yeah, corporate Beth is
You're not wrenching on helicopters wearing a blazer, I'm guessing.
Not this week. No.
This is about as fancy as I'll go.
Yeah.
Yesterday, everyone was wearing suits and everything. I don't wear suits.
Yeah.
Just not my thing. That's hard because, our clients will often see a pre-buy report and it can scare them. I don't fully understand that. And, so it sounds like you guys are recognizing that engineers can maybe confuse it sometimes. And so that's good that you can hopefully help and guide that buyer through understanding what you're putting on paper.
Yeah.
Right? Because I can look at a math equation, doesn't mean I can solve it. So you got a fan club over here?
It's my sister.
Oh, hi. How are you? Crazy. Hey, we're live from European Rotors, so there's distractions.
Yep.
and that's all part of it. She still lives in New Zealand,
She does.
and she thinks that you sound not New Zealand anymore.
Yeah. Apparently I don't.
I mean, I definitely hear the accent, so I guess maybe it's
Not enough.
not as thick as it used to. I don't
Mustn't
know.
be as thick. I don't know.
So, the other interesting thing that we were talking about before we started recording is the idea of international.
Yeah.
And actually, a bit of a bread and butter for my company has been this idea of making Americans feel more comfortable buying out of the United States. The funny
Very
thing
interesting.
is Americans have this idea that we're better, right? And so
Yeah.
they think that the FAA specifically is the best regulatory body of superior aircraft maintenance. You and I know that's not right?
It's not always
Um,
correct. No.
You specifically Part 91, private owner.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of the Wild West, right? You're
Yeah.
operating Part 91. You got to do what? A 12-month annual?
Yeah.
Like, you can ignore the OEM recommendations, right?
Yeah.
The FAA is not going to mandate
Wild, isn't
that.
it? Yeah.
So a different, lower standard, in my opinion. And so something that we've tried to do is educate our buyers here in the United States that, hey, look, if we can get the right deal in Europe or Australia or New Zealand or Canada,
Yep.
because we're even scared of Canada, buyers are at least, if we can help make them comfortable, right? They're, and I was having, I forget who it was, but I think yesterday or the day before, I was having a conversation. That's your husband, right?
Yeah.
I
that's
recognize him. Was his hair longer last year?
Maybe.
I feel like it was.
Curlier.
We've made good business out of helping Americans feel comfortable buying overseas.
So how did you do that?
A lot of fake it till you make it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Learning the process ourselves.
Okay.
Luckily, no catastrophic mistakes, but making some mistakes along the way.
Yeah.
But starting simple, starting in Canada, doing a
Yeah.
lot of deals, Canada to
Moving
U.S.,
stuff across the
U.S.
border.
to Canada.
Yeah.
What does that look like? What does that feel like?
Yeah.
Now that's like, I do that in my sleep.
Yeah.
That's pretty
Cool.
much no-brainer.
Yeah.
Then we started going over to Europe, and it's like, okay, why will Transport Canada accept this EASA STC, but the
Yeah.
FAA won't because it's not familiarized? Like, I don't even know what that means,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What do we do? Oh my gosh. And then we find a solution,
Yeah.
and it looks, look, we can do a field approval for the dual Garmin. Okay, cool, we'll do that.
Yeah.
So just some trial and error. It's not always been perfect for us. We've made some mistakes, but luckily nothing catastrophic.
Yeah.
And now I feel extremely comfortable. I brought aircraft in from Canada and Mexico, Central America,
Cool.
New Zealand, Australia, Europe.
Awesome.
And right now the deals aren't really great, so it doesn't really make sense to go outside the United States because you pay more and then you have to pay for shipping. So
Yeah.
it's been hard to navigate this year, and it's been one of the reasons why we've actually been a little bit slower. But what is the approach that you guys take in regards to, let's say that you have an American client. We'll keep it at home for me at least. And they have an aircraft. It's in Europe or Australia, wherever it is. What is your experience on helping that client feel comfortable with the import-export?
Thank you to our sponsor, Precision Aviation Group. Mission-critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over 150 million in inventory globally, 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support.
Well, that's a really interesting one to talk about, actually, for me as well, because that's what we have found also, is that the comfort level and, again, some of the conversations we have in the shop, it is, and I just put myself in the shoes, and I just think, okay, how would I feel? Let's say I wasn't a maintenance engineer, and I've got this company, and I'm really interested in this helicopter that's, say, in Switzerland. It looks great, but it's all the way over there, and it would be pretty scary, I think.
It's far.
First of all, you've got to wire the money into the Never Land and hope that you're actually going to get a helicopter out of it, and it's not a small amount of money we're talking about. So you've got that to start with. That's a large degree of trust involved there. You're dealing with foreign language, even though it's Europe, and so we're all, generally comfortable because between North America and Europe,
Sure.
there's a very comfortable relationship. But it's another language, it's another country, it's another regulatory body. But the thing that I think I would be most terrified of is, and what would likely make me, if I didn't have the knowledge that I know and the skills and capability that our team has, what I think would stop my sale, what would stop me going, no, I think that's a bit too scary, would be that it's like you said, it's across the ocean, it's a long way away. How long is it going to take to get here? How much is it going to cost? How do I find out people that are actually skilled and experienced to do that?
Sure.
And the big thing, what if it can't get into my country? What if I go through all of that, I pay that money, if I figure out how to ship it here, it gets here, and then I can't onboard it. There's some STCs or there's something that I missed that.
I can't, my DAR won't issue
I can't.
a
and I've got a
CFA.
contract starting in, say, 3.5 months, and I need a helicopter ready to go on that contract. That is a hard date. I need it. And so we deal with this. It's an easy scenario for me to imagine because we deal with that quite regularly where it's time to bring a new helicopter into the fleet. And so often we find it's very hard to measure what hasn't happened. So we don't really know how many sales haven't happened between North America and Europe. It's impossible to measure what hasn't happened. But what we feel is that the likelihood that sales don't go ahead out of country is probably quite high, I think, because of the fear of the unknown. Fear of the unknown is a huge driver. Like if I have an average helicopter that's pretty high time, but it's got the kits I need and it's 3 provinces over in Canada, so I don't have to deal with all the import bullshit. They want way more for it than really what it's worth because it's too high. It's too high in time, and it's a bit of a dog. It's been beaten up, but it's in Canada. I think I'll just grab that because it's good to go. I think there is a large amount of fear of the unknown that stops all this going ahead. So for us, that's really what we have really focused on, is doing all of the due diligence so that we can do whatever we can to support these sales so that it removes some of the uncertainty.
And it's so crazy, for our listeners out there, just to give you some idea of what Beth is saying of the complexity. The fear of the unknown is definitely legit because you could screw it up.
Yeah.
You could have a helicopter that's in your hangar and you can't do anything with it legally.
Yep. Legally, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is not a situation, especially if you just dropped, millions of dollars on having that aircraft.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's so many details. There's so many little possibilities that can be an issue.
Yes.
As down to it of like, say an Airbus product that went directly, never went to the United States, and the original, type certificate doesn't have the correct language. So if I have a DAR of another country that's unwilling to say that it complies with, Form 26 of blah, blah, blah.
Exactly.
Then I'm paying Airbus $20,000 for an attestation letter.
Yeah.
It's all these crazy little details that you never even think about.
Exactly.
You
And
never
your poor
understand.
DOM is doing that on the maintenance side, like tearing their hair out, going like, wow, I've got this whole fleet to run and I'm onboarding this godforsaken child that just got dumped on me. And so your DOM's dealing with that on one side. Meanwhile, the contract date is looming and you've got, like, you got to get to work. You got to have that helicopter ready. And so it can be very stressful.
Yeah, it's a stressful thing, but it's doable. It's extremely doable.
Yeah, well, that's why we decided to launch the product that we're doing, is because we get it. We get that it's high stakes. It's high. There's a lot of zeros attached. There's a lot of complexity that if you get it wrong, it can be, like you say, it can be really wrong. You can have a really expensive paperweight sitting in your hangar. And so we feel that there is ways to eliminate all of that uncertainty, and that is called a pre-purchase inspection.
And due diligence, and it takes time too. The European deals coming to the United States can take some time. Australia, New Zealand. You have to have a client that has some patience and also has some flexibility, because there's things that are outside of control too.
Yeah.
Helicopters getting stuck in port.
Well, that's what we find though. We honestly, that's between the combination of the pre-purchase inspection and the overview service that I mentioned in the beginning with HeliPackers. Those are, if you are moving aircraft between borders, those two products together they are two sides of the same coin for us now.
Totally.
Because you will have your pre-buy done, which we also these days call a pre-import inspection, because what we found is that we're in the tech records touching all the paper.
You might as well make sure
Exactly.
that it's going to...
We digitize all of the records already. It's really painstaking, dry. It is dry
horrible.
work. And so what we say is like only...
My record is a 29,000 hour aircraft, Jet Ranger. And it was pretty early in my selling career, so I felt it necessary to scan every single page. I could have just gotten away with the recent journey log.
Yep.
And took me like 8+ hours.
That's a lot. Like going
Cam
through.
scanner.
Yep. It's a lot. And there's no way around it because you can't put it through a machine. Like they're books.
There's nothing simple. Luckily, I mean, I do like the phone apps. You know, the scanning apps.
They're great.
Are live.
But you know, like you say, after like hour 16, it's definitely nothing can be that great. And so we find it's the digitizing. I mean, that's an interesting thing in itself. The amount of aircraft that we turn up to that or that we're doing our desktop maintenance forecast appraisal on to start with, and you ask like, okay, if you've got any of the records digitized, that'll sure cut down time and save the bill. It continues to blow me away how many aircraft do not have their technical records digitized. It is mind blowing. When we all know,
I'd say it's more don't have them.
I know, it is so wild because we all know that an aircraft is an expensive paperweight without its tech records.
Yeah, I mean the tech records are so important.
But somehow they don't ever get digitized. And
Europe does better.
Yeah,
especially if it's under a camo. Like we've had at least better experience of having digitalized records, but I would say 80+% of the aircraft
I agree
that I come across, and then I'll try to stipulate it. I'll put it in the contract. Like if I'm helping a buyer, I'll say, hey, look, we're going to make an offer based on the information that you've given us.
Yeah.
But I haven't even seen one record that confirms that the hours, the cycles, the landings are accurate of what you're telling me.
Yeah.
And, oh, by the way, the maintenance tracking report that you sent me is 5 months old. So
current and up to date.
Do you think we
please.
can get a current up to date? And we'll put it in a contract, and a seller will sign it, and then you ask, and like, oh, I'm not doing that. And it's like, you signed the contract, you know? And so we're consistently kind of dealing with things like that. We have a listening base that kind of falls under a private owner called a U.S. Part 91 owner. Something that I take seriously, and my job is to help educate those owners to be good helicopter owners.
Yep.
From your engineer background, what would you tell my listeners that own a helicopter? You've seen, I'm guessing, good, bad, and very bad.
Yes.
To you, what's responsible aircraft ownership look like from an engineer standpoint regarding records, keeping up to date, tracking, and complying with OEM recommended maintenance? What is it? If you are giving advice to those private owners, what's most important?
That's a really good question. I would say know that you don't know is probably a really important way to sum it up, because coming back to that same point we've talked about a couple of times already, is these helicopters are so complex, and those of us that get into it as a career, it's complex enough to keep us all engaged and busy and learning literally every single day for our entire careers, and we will still feel, by the end of our careers, we'll still feel like we don't know enough ever, that we know nothing.
Yeah.
We still feel like we're learning. And so I think because there's it's just such an incredible, flight is incredible by itself. The fact that we've managed to figure out how to take flight, and then the fact that we have helicopters that take flight is that next level again. So know that you don't know is probably a really good one, a good, I don't know, bumper sticker for,
it's true, particularly
for private owners, because it can be really overwhelming. It's just a lot. There's a lot all at once. And so on the maintenance side, nothing is what it seems. Everything is so much more complex than it seems. And so responsible aircraft ownership for a private owner, I would say, is someone that really, really respects and works with their maintenance provider, and really just don't even just know that what that engineer and an A&P mechanic in the US, what they're doing is often like really, we call it's eye bleeding. It's really thankless behind the scenes work that nobody gets to see. There's no way anyone really understands what it is you're doing when you're under the hood, fixing all the tiny little things to make sure that things don't become a problem. The engineer, they're not going to go and tell you in all these details of all the things that they fixed and that they did. But so I think just know that mechanic is doing a whole bunch of stuff that you just really don't know. You probably don't want to know, but you're not going to get to do what you want to do as a pilot if that engineer or mechanic hasn't done their side. And so being a responsible aircraft owner is knowing that there's just so much on the maintenance side that really never gets talked about, because a personality type, again, engineers we're not the type to go and, we're not the marketing type. We're not going to go and do a big press release about what we just did. We just
newsflash.
We just roll our sleeves up and we get in there and do it. And so doing things like giving communication, giving the maintenance department or your mechanic a heads up and knowing that, okay, I'd like to book this in, 2, 3, 4 weeks, preferably months. I've got my inspection. I've got this. I've been doing this many hours. What are your thoughts? Or I'm looking at buying this helicopter. What time would work for you to go do an inspection? I don't know, just giving lead time is always going to work in your favor.
You shouldn't have called the night before that you need your 12-month done. That never happens, right?
Yeah, it never happens. Yeah.
What about there's a lot of good engineers. There's maybe some engineers that are not as prideful or take as much pride. What would be some warning signs to a private owner that maybe they have the wrong person working on their aircraft, or they've hired the wrong person to do a pre-buy?
Join Instrom Helicopter Corporation at this year's VAI Verticon, March 11th through 13th in Dallas, Texas. Instrom will showcase its latest piston and turbine-powered helicopters, highlighting new features like 3-axis VFR autopilot, lightweight lithium-ion batteries, and more. Find Instrom at booth 8211.
I would say, I don't know if that's probably a tough question to ask in advance. That is a really, really tough one, and we've started addressing that by doing blog posts on our website with Leading Edge Aerospace. LEAero.ca
sometimes, like I go to the dentist,
and
right?
We're rolling out a whole bunch of blog posts for answering
or
exactly that question,
but
because it is
pain.
really difficult. Like, how do you know?
How do I know?
Because
how do I actually know that that's exactly?
Yeah. Yeah. How do I know? Like, are they just fleecing me? Yeah. But to be honest, generally speaking, again, personality type, maintenance, people that are attracted into maintenance, into maintaining particularly helicopters, are the more prideful types of people anyway. They're actually, it's a tough job to do. It's a tough apprenticeship to get through. And so the likelihood that if a person's still, like I said, you don't really get a lot of appreciation or thanks for it. So the type of person that actually stays in as a mechanic, as a helicopter mechanic for a career, are the type of people that are usually fairly good at taking their own, high-fiving themselves and patting their own selves on the back, and just actually self-motivated, taking pride in their own work. So the percentage of what you saw like bad mechanics versus good is, I would say, much lower than other industries. Because it's a hard job, and every mechanic has actually got fairly high level of training, and so for the most part, I'm not going to say that you can't go wrong, but if I'm saying for the most part, that person will have your best interest, and that asking questions about the particulars. So where I think you probably would run into a little more frequently is the type of helicopter. It's very, very specific. Knowledge base on that specific type of helicopter does actually matter. It means a lot, and so that is something that I do personally find, is that engineers will sometimes not be quite so honest about how lack of experience they have on that particular type. They might be a 20-year experience, 30-year experience engineer, but they might not have touched that particular type for 10, 12, 20 years,
awesome.
whatever. And so that is definitely a lot more common. So those are the sort of things that we're touching on now with our checklist and our blog posts to help support educating people. because otherwise the only way you'd find out really is that you get to the other end of the pre-buy after you've already paid them to go do it, and you get. I'm not kidding.
I mean,
you.
that
I've
seems
seen
like a lot.
A Word document 2.5
Compared to
page
most.
with large spacing. That's it. That's your pre-buy. So and
we
that's
sell a lot of turbine aircraft, but we also sell a lot of piston Robinson 44s. And
that is,
one
like I
thing
said,
I would encourage my
doesn't do
listeners
this
not to
beautiful
do
machine
is,
justice.
I don't care how good your Cessna mechanic is. Don't let him work on your helicopter.
Yeah, that's a good one.
We get that a lot. It's like, just don't do that. So for you guys specifically, I mean, for us, bread and butter, we do a lot of Robinson, we do a lot of Airbus, we do a lot of Bell. Twins would be, 135s, 429s, and then, but big play for us, A-Stars, 407s.
Yep.
Kind of where we live. Do you guys specialize in all helicopters? Do you have a specific, make, model that's kind of your bread and butter?
Seems to be, yeah. For us in our shop, we do a lot of Airbus products.
Okay.
AS350 foreshore, the whole range, all the way through from BA, B2, B3, B3, the whole lot. So that's really, and then they're just a big mover in North America for sure. 135s becoming a lot more frequent, 145s and 407, 206 series, of course. They're bread and butter from back in the day, and 500s as well. So light to intermediate market. We do not, in-house, we don't have experience for mediums, and we find that medium operators are pretty well supported in their own
they have kind
facilities.
of. That's kind of what we found as well. It's we're very comfortable in the market that we're covering. Shameless plug: we have an EC135 for sale right now as well.
On.
So go to the sellacopter.com and check that out.
What engine?
It's a P2 Plus.
P2 Plus.
Yeah,
that's good. That's one of the ones that we're operating. Very, very good aircraft.
I'm a fan of the Pratts.
Yes, same.
For many reasons.
Fantastic.
Pratt's a good product.
Yeah, good Canadian product.
Yeah. We won't talk too much.
Your neighbor's saffron right there.
So yeah, it's incredible. It sounds like you guys are doing some really awesome things. Really glad that I got to connect with you again this year.
Yeah, so good.
Glad to hear that you guys are killing it. Congratulations on exhibiting. I'm going to have to check it out.
Yeah,
I've been stuck on this table all day. It's a good thing. I'm not complaining.
Yeah, well, you do great podcasts.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
If someone is interested in working with you, whether it's a mobile maintenance situation or for pre-purchase inspection, what is the best way for them to connect?
I would say our website, either through Instagram, LE_aerospace, or our website, aero.ca.
Perfect. Well, you guys heard it here. I cannot stress that everything that Beth has talked about is 100% accurate. It's an underserved, weird market when it comes to helicopters and pre-buys and maintenance in general, importing, exporting. If you are thinking of buying an aircraft, specifically an aircraft that has a turbine engine, talk about a 206. That could be an aircraft that was built. I just sold one from 1967.
Yeah,
that's serial number 30 or something.
Awesome.
They were sending Hueys off to Vietnam when this thing was on the assembly line. So, it's so important to have a professional team behind you, in services like HeliPackers, or certainly those people that can help you. And they work really well in conjunction with guys like me, brokers, right?
Yep.
These are the people that we hire to help us get through different processes, like the pre-buy.
To make sure that the fit is right. That helicopter is the right fit for that buyer at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Beth, thank you so much for coming on the Helicopter Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Big thanks to MHM Publishing for creating the HeliCAST platform and making this podcast possible, and doing cool things like recording live from the show floor of 2024 European Rotors. To our listeners, please continue to follow along. We release new episodes every single Tuesday. Make sure that you're liking, subscribing, and you can find us in all areas where you consume podcasts. We'll catch you later. Thanks again, Beth.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Verticon. Experience the ultimate thrill at Verticon, the show that features more helicopters than any. Cutting-edge technology, hundreds of companies, and international industry leaders come to the world's largest vertical aviation show. Register today at verticon.org.
thank you to our sponsor, Precision Aviation Group. Mission-critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over 150 million in inventory globally, 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support.
Join Instrom Helicopter Corporation at this year's VAI Verticon, March 11th through 13th in Dallas, Texas. Instrom will showcase its latest piston and turbine-powered helicopters, highlighting new features like 3-axis VFR autopilot, lightweight lithium-ion batteries, and more. Find Instrom at booth 8211.